I understand that with your latest record, Twerk Verse, you took your time, you know, because normally Speedy Ortiz is accustomed to rushing things. I mean,
yeah.
How pleasing was that a factor for you?
It was a very different pace. I mean, the first record we ever did, we spent 4 days tracking it, which is very quick considering we did 14 songs. The second record, we scheduled, you know, I think 2 weeks of tracking, a week of mixing. And this record, we just didn't really... We really took our time. We made a record, and we didn't feel that it was like 100% what we wanted to release, so we just booked more studio time, and it was kind of... It's relaxing to be at a stage in our band's life where we don't feel that we have to just, you know, rush to put out the next thing. We could really wait until we felt 100% sure that that was the record we wanted to stand behind.
You write and record demos and you bring them to the band, and you know, you feel like you're much stronger recording at home now, you know, than previously. What led to this?
In between our last 2 records, I did a solo record where I played everything and recorded it myself, which was sort of the idea behind Speedy Ortiz in the first place. Like when I first started the project, it was my home recording project away from my normal daytime band, where I could play all the instruments and record, just as an exercise in getting better at that. And because I love so many projects where that's the case, where the songwriter is the sole instrumentalist and producer. And obviously I love how much Speedy has grown as a group, and Mike, who just walked through, like, we love playing together. But I'd wanted to get back to home recording, so I did a solo record as Sad 13. And by the end of it, I thought I was kind of a better engineer and better with synths and better at drum programming, and those were all sounds that we hadn't done a ton of with Speedy, just because we're sort of restricted to how much money we have for the studio, which translates to how many hours, which means, you know, we're spending all of our time just adding, you know, what we've already composed, whereas doing it at home, I could kind of go into my rabbit hole of like 10 hours of fiddling with different sounds and different melodies, and yeah, it was cool to be able to use those on this record for the first time.
And one of the common threads throughout this release is, you know, holding on to optimism, you know, given the bedlam in the world and, you know, the overwhelming nature of negativity.
Sure.
And just like, you know, just engaging more so. I mean, you know, was that something that you felt compelled to kind of incorporate that hope throughout?
I think I sort of felt like I'd lose my mind if I didn't. Certainly right after the election, I wrote a lot of these songs about feeling confused and hurt and just weirded out by the direction that my country and the whole world was going in. Certainly leading up to our midterm elections, I'm trying to maintain a sense of optimism, but I think that if you're engaged in any form of activism or really just trying to live with the, you know, crushing knowledge that we've damaged our climate irreparably, I don't know, you have to have some kind of optimism, or else why bother to try to make change.
The track Villain, you've received so many kind words for this one, and rightfully so.
Oh,
I wanted to ask you, from a compositional sense, what was it like to flesh out this one, you know, with the band and, you know, layering it and structuring it? The tempo's very impressive. What was it like?
That one was really fun to work on. It's one of the earlier ones that I wrote for the record, and it was just a very sparse demo that was just, you know, one synth line and the guitar part that I play on the record. So it was really fun to develop it as a group. We played it live for a little while, and then when we tracked it, we wound up, the drummer from this band Phenomena, Danny Syme, who's one of my favorite drummers and producers, we were talking to him about potentially mixing the record, and he sent back like a rough mix of that song where he'd added some more synths and auxiliary percussion parts, and we just loved what he did with it, so we wound up retaining the parts that he composed for it. So I've never done a song quite in that way. And it's such a personal song that I was kind of worried about opening it up to the band when I first wrote it, but yeah, it feels really nice to get to play it with everyone, and I love how it came out. And
being a vegan, I mean, I understand that, you know, you've got a lot of groceries that you bring with you, because I know you've got the app which helps, you know, locate vegan options for you, but
Happy Cow?
Yes, but primarily, is it the groceries that you bring on board that really help and, you know, keep you... on tour kind of help you with that?
I feel like I am less all about the groceries when I'm in the UK, just because there's so many cool vegan options, and I want to eat all of them. But we went to a grocery store in Nottingham like 2 days ago, and there's like there's a thing here that I always stock up on, which is like it's a crunchy, but it's vegan. It's called Golden Crunch. Have you seen this?
I'm not, no.
So we don't even really have crunchies in the US, but for some reason I would eat them when I was a kid. I think my mom had a friend who lived in Europe, and she would bring them back for me. So I got like 4 Golden Crunches, and I made my bandmates get them, and they don't really like them, so they're just giving them back to me. So I did stock up on quite a lot of candy.
I understand that you moved to Philadelphia to be closer to your friends, and you ended up becoming more of a homebody.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Netflix going on there. A lot of Sex and the City being watched.
I did watch all of Sex and the City for the first time. I have, not the most positive things to say about it, but I did watch all of it.
What did you make of Evil Genius?
What's Evil? Oh, I did watch that.
Yeah.
It's kind of. It's a sad story for everyone involved, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did watch The Staircase recently, which is my favorite of the true crime Netflix shows.
Growing up, you were really into 90s hip hop, and I wanted to ask you, out of the 3, which did you prefer? Salt and Pepper, Destiny's Child, or TLC?
TLC for sure, but Destiny's Child is a close contender. I'm born in 1988, so I feel like Salt and Pepper is like slightly like I know their songs, but I didn't. I wasn't like in middle school when they had hits. Whereas like TLC was on fan mail by the time I was in middle school. Destiny's Child for sure. So like middle school dances, those are the ones. But I think I learned a lot in terms of like I love to add lots of vocal harmonies to the songs, and for sure it's from singing along to those 2 artists.
And out of these 3, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas, another 3 artists that you listened to growing up as well.
Biggie for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually watched his funeral.
Yeah.
Not his funeral, but the procession going in. Because I went to a public school in New York that was like right across the street from the funeral home, and we all just stopped class in 3rd grade to watch.
And you also recently met Dave Grohl, who showed you how to take the perfect rock pose.
He did.
Must have been quite an experience. What a legend. But how was he like? What was he like?
He was really sweet, and he was really sweet to my mom, and talked to her about his own mom. So he was very cool.
As you look ahead, what are the key incentives that you feel drive you, to progress further, and what do you hope to explore further with Speedy Ortiz as you look ahead? I
think we'd like to do a heavier sounding record. I think our first record is like it's a little bit heavier than the 2 that follow it, but it's so live. It'd be cool to do a heavy record that's more studio oriented. I think that's something we'd all like to explore.